Hello everyone. As you all may know, the Ethiopian Prime Minister received a highly controversial and for many a premature Nobel Peace Prize in 2019. Although the Nobel Committee has lately been showing signs of deep regrets, it does not seem to take quick action to at least apologize to Ethiopians and of course the world. And now a petition letter is written and sent to the Nobel Committee. The letter requested the committee to review its mistake of awarding a peace prize to the Ethiopian Prime Minister. According to the senders of the letter, they received a confirmation from the Nobel Committee that it was received and forwarded to the secretary of the committee. I'm now reading the letter and presenting some associated addendum to you as follows. Request for a review of the 2019 Nobel Peace Prize that rewarded the planning phase of a war. Nobel Prize General. Sweden and Norway have consistently been ranked and recognized for years as two of the topmost countries of freedom, where a broad and deep understanding of human dignity is assured by the government to the people and by the people to each other. These two countries are also home to numerous amazing history and robust scientific and technological inventions. To that effect, one Scandinavian man stands out among others as his patriotic legacy has been rolling through generations. The man being referred here is no other than the Swedish legend Alfred Nobel. The world owes a lot to all parties who've been playing different roles in passing Nobel's legacy through generations, as the different forms of prizes have had huge potential in reinforcing the works and behaviors of humankind for the better. The Norwegian Nobel Committee, one of the bodies in charge of nominating and awarding Nobel Prizes, has so far been doing tremendous work and recognizing and rewarding several individuals as well as entities for their effort in promoting peace, thereby encouraging the prevalence of peace around the world. The world salutes the committee for such noble job. Well done. The mistake. Notwithstanding what has been said above, it is appropriate and constructive to pinpoint a fatal mistake the Norwegian Nobel Committee did back in December 2019. To visualize the gravity and deadly nature of this mistake, let's first remember the intentions of the old-times global personality Nobel were. According to different sources, it's believed that Alfred Nobel was once inappropriately called Merchant of Death by one of the newspapers during his lifetime to seemingly condemn Nobel's inventions of explosives. After learning those inappropriate derogatory, Alfred Nobel seemed to be touched by those name-callings, giving rise to the birth of the Nobel Foundation, which, according to his will, would administer the nomination, selection, and award of prizes for exemplary entities and individuals around the world who contribute in one way or another to the betterment of human life. Noble cause indeed. Before diving in to explain the recent mistake the Norwegian Nobel Committee made, let's ask this question first. Has the committee or any of its members ever thought that the Nobel Prize would have an intended effect or an intended disastrous effect if award goes to a wrong entity or individual person? The Norwegian Nobel Committee probably is aware of what's about to be disclosed here. But what would each of the members of the committee feel if it's hereby brought to your attention that the committee back in December 2019 rewarded a Peace Prize for an evil, hatred, and warrior personality? We hereby provided very few of countless evidences to clearly show that the committee rewarded the Ethiopian Prime Minister just for making plans and preparations for an ethnic-based war. That's right, the recipient of the 2019 Nobel Peace Prize misled the world to portray the new alliance of his country and Eritrea as promotion of peace. How did the mistake happen, and why is it a mistake? Let's now put a brief rundown of events that led to the Nobel Peace Prize awarded in 2019. Abiy Ahmed, before coming to power, along with a few other individuals, preached ethnic disparity and hatred for years before the downfall of the former government, which was often accused for being led mostly by authorities of Tigrayan origin. Tigray is one of dozens of Ethiopian ethnic-based regions. Let's see for a moment the characteristics that define Abiy Ahmed in terms of his loyalty or disloyalty to society in general. With several evidence, Abiy is known for seeking personal gains at the expense of conflicts that can claim bloodshed of millions of people. He does not think twice when he speaks completely opposite and conflicting ideas based simply on what is acceptable to his immediate audience. It is very common to watch Abiy making absolute untrue statements that can easily be verified by anyone. On a regular basis, he encourages ethnically motivated, illegally armed youth mob to displace, kill other ordinary unarmed citizens of different ethnic identities. All this can simply be proven with several evidence, as they are all available on social media, other platforms, and few of them are referenced here. Abiy Ahmed had been aggravating these tensions in the few years leading to the downfall of the former government and continued making up toxic narrations that became basis for conflicts, claiming millions of people and displacing millions of others. After discovering that the tensions rose between ethnic groups and the country was about to disintegrate in 2018, the government, allegedly comprised mostly of Tigrayans, peacefully handed over the government to Abiy Ahmed's group, with a subsequent selection of Abiy Ahmed as the Prime Minister of the country. With that, Abiy came to the front seat after promising several economic and political reforms such as freedom of speech, equality, loosening the political playground, liberalizing the economy, and many other easy and nice to say promises. Despite the promises, it did not take too long to learn that those promises were merely said to deceive people into thinking that a new bright day was ahead. Because what Abiy actually did later was almost the exact opposite of what he promised, killing and harassing those who dare to speak up, creating an image of an upper and lower classes of citizens based on ethnic identity, dismantling and arresting political parties and their members, an economy that alarmingly went backwards, etc. Despite the peaceful transition of power in 2018, Abiy Ahmed did not want to stop there, since he wanted to make sure that the Tigrayans are weakened in such a way that they won't ever be a threat to his power. On his first day in office, the first action he took was making friendship with the Eritrean president with no officially known agreement to this date. When doing so, Abiy Ahmed knows that the Eritrean president is a fierce rival and enemy of the Tigrayans who can use any opportunity to destroy Tigray and even if its people. Also keep in mind that Tigray is geographically located between Eritrea and the rest of Ethiopia. The new privately forged friendship based solely on unknown agreement between Abiy Ahmed and the Eritrean president was part of the big plan, which is conspiring to declare a joint war against Tigray, a relatively small part of Ethiopia. The Norwegian Nobel Committee then looked at this new friendship between the two leaders without visualizing the whole picture of Abiy's intentions. No one should blame distant observers like the Norwegian Nobel Committee for awarding Abiy for creating a disguised peace deal mistaken as a goal by itself. Because the committee did the nomination and awarded Peace Prize in light of available information at the time. However, the committee was misled to believe that the new friendship and peacemaking was what it looked like, deserving a reward. That is how the theater portraying Abiy Ahmed as a peace hero started unfolding. Let's now look at what happened after that. The Nobel Prize in effect served as a license to show Abiy's dominance as an absolute dictator and his ethnic hatred ambitions leading to wars, ethnically motivated mob killing and looting other citizens of different ethnic identities. Very few raised questions on Abiy's racist and terrorist behaviors, as the Nobel Prize is often brought up whenever the insanity of the man is questioned. The prize has served as a cultural argument to counterattack all accusations of terrors and ethnic-centered hatred centrally promoted by Abiy Ahmed. According to different sources, at least over 1 million people have lost their lives and over 2 million others have been displaced just in the war in Tigray, carried out jointly by Abiy Ahmed and the Eritrean president, which was the actual objective of the new friendship between the two leaders. The Tigrayans were sieged and punished with hunger. Women and children were raped, killed, and confined, allegedly amounting to genocide crime perpetrated by Abiy and Isaias.
He said to me, "Listen to me, you go where we tell you to go. Otherwise, we will blast your belly out with this knife. We don't want to waste any of the bullets. We will cut your throat with this knife." Then I screamed out.
Villagers found her unconscious and bleeding. She had a broken leg and severe internal injuries. At the hospital, doctors removed blood-soaked items, including nails, that soldiers forced into her body after she was raped.
I have spent a month in this hospital. I'm receiving treatment. My legs do not move. They are broken. My back is also broken. Let alone moving, I can't even get up. I cannot control my urine. There is a mix of urine and blood coming out of me.
Moreover, in other parts of the country where there is no officially declared war, Abiy Ahmed is known for organizing an informal armed force ethnically affiliated with himself. This informal and illegal armed force, secretly led by Abiy Ahmed and his ethnic biased friends, at times in conjunction with formal armed forces of selected ethnicity, has consistently been engaging in activities of killing and displacing millions of people and harassing others of mostly other ethnic groups for no reason other than hatred and bigotry spread by Abiy and other like-minded arrogance. Then is Abiy Ahmed who the Nobel Committee thought he was? The world and the Norwegian Nobel Committee now have enough information who Abiy Ahmed is and what he stands for. In 2019, not too many people knew Abiy Ahmed. The only information we had at the time was what he spoke, as he was a relatively unknown person for most people, especially for much of the international community who have limited knowledge of the ethnic-based violence, bigotry, and hatred preached by Abiy Ahmed well before he came to light, considered him as a man of peace solely based on one single event. However, the man is a person of artificial and masked personalities, as no moral value holds him back when he addresses different audiences with completely opposing and conflicting vibes. There is more than enough evidence to show that Abiy has worked on purpose to motivate the youth from his ethnic background to rise against other civilians of different ethnic identities, even after he came to power. During his 5 years in office and to date, He has conducted no serious interviews with any serious journalist. The judicial system, the law enforcement, the economy, the parliament are all simply puppets of Abiy Ahmed. He controlled all states' media, staffed major branches of the government with ethnically loyal people. The largest city of the country, Addis Ababa, is inhabited mostly by citizens who believe in the national unity of the country. And this city is known for being independent of any ethnic affiliation. Abiy Ahmed, since he took power, is encouraging and promoting the idea that this city belongs to the ethnic identity of his origin, coaching and supporting mob youth to terrorize, loot, and kill other residents in and outside the city. Among other things, properties and houses owned by people of different ethnicities are targeted for demolition without any remedy to the lives of the owners thereafter.
መንግስት ከፈለገው በ88 ዓመተ ምህረት ጀምሮ ካርታ አለ ለተከራይ 3 ወር እየተሰጠ እኛ በ24 ሰዓት የምንነሳበት ምክንያት ምንድነው? ዜጋ አይደለንም ወይ? ስንትና ስንት ተማሪ አለ፣ ስንት ህፃናቶች አሉ። የፈተና ሰዓት እኮ ነው። የት ሄዱ እነዚህ ሁሉ ልጆች? አዛውንቶቹን የት እንጣላቸው? እንዴ እኛ ህዝብ አይደለንም? መንግስት አይፈልገንም? ለምርጫ ሲሆን ያባረረናል አይደለም? ለምንድነው እንደዚህ ምን ሆኖ? ለምንድነው መሬት ላይ የምንጣለው? ለምን ጨረቃ ላይ እንጣላለን? ነገሮች ይስተካከላሉ። ሌላ ቦታ እኮ ብዙ ቦታ ሰፍተናል። መጠለያ እየተሰጣቸው ነው የተነሱት። ክፍለ ከተማ ሄደናል አናቅም ብለዋል። ወረዳ ሄደናል አናቅም ብለዋል። ከንቲባ ቢሮ ሄደናል በቀደም አናቃችሁም ነው ያሉት።
With respect to the Tigray war, shortly after destroying Mekelle, one of the biggest cities in the country located in Tigray, Abiy Ahmed proudly addressed a gathering that the city was then comparable to Beshesha, one of the least developed places in the country. Also, one of the biggest tragic changes that Abiy has injected is that citizens and others have lost appetite to travel and visit places in Ethiopia due to fears and threats of deadly attacks of mostly ethnical in nature. A lot of journalists and politicians have been jailed for no reason. People disappear suddenly. Political parties with different views and ideas are either dismantled and labeled illegal or lose their members for massacre and arrests. Only a couple of political parties who chose to serve as stepping stones for Abiy Ahmed are allowed to exist. In exchange for that favor, Abiy Ahmed hired some of them in his cabinets based simply on employer and employee relationship. As of now, over 20 million people are reported to die of starvation or are on the brink of death, and people who used to live comfortably just a few years ago can't afford to buy goods of necessity, including food, while Abiy Ahmed is busy putting things together for himself to build the largest palace in history and in the region. This is what happens when society unconsciously crowns incompetent and evil personalities. Abiy recently spoke with no shame in parliament that building the palace would cost over $20 billion. No parliament member was bold enough to ask a priority question, not only because Abiy Ahmed is known for conducting deadly revenge or any sign of resistance, but also they have repeatedly watched him doing several immoral acts day in and day out. Considering what is now known, should the Nobel Committee ignore its grave mistake? At this point, let's ask another question. Is it okay to reward a new friendship between two individuals or entities who once seemed rivals? Most people may instinctively be prompt to answer yes to this question. Different people or entities may form alliance for different purposes. Not all alliances are intended for positive outcomes. A crew of pirates, terrorist groups, and other small and big threats to society are all formed on alliance between people and or entities. However, a human being has always been coping with those by putting systems in place to punish those evil alliances and activities. The alliance that was mistakenly awarded in 2019 was not any different than those evil alliances. Abiy Ahmed had a relatively unknown history for most people during the first couple of years in office. For him to win the Nobel Prize, which he used as a certificate of unleashing his real evil ambitions, only because of a single event is outrageous and should serve as a wake-up call for the Nobel Committee to revise its selecting criteria of peace awards. This letter is written to forward the following 3 requests to the Norwegian Nobel Committee. 1. Revision of selection criteria. The first and the main point of this letter is to request the Norwegian Nobel Committee to require selection of awardees pass through a deeper examination and thorough analysis about who they really are. It would be safer to award prizes, especially Nobel Peace Prizes, to people or entities with known and proven history. Also, the committee members should not be misled by overwhelming applause. Applause is usually based on a momentary emotional events, which can also be based on hatred for others, not necessarily based on support for the party applauded. Applause is not in any way a confirmation of achievements or direct and actual acceptance, although it can be used as a starting point. 2. Condemnation of racist and terrorist acts perpetrated and promoted by Abiy Ahmed. The Ethiopian people is a direct victim of the 2019 Nobel Peace Prize. They have undergone countless abuses, harassment, killings in millions, with war and without war, ethnic-based attacks and made-up toxic narrations breaking up the social fabric, holding the people together, and many more. Although the Prime Minister is known for conducting and promoting hateful behaviors, the Nobel Prize empowered this evil ambition, leading the country to where it is now. Hell, where ethnically triggered conflicts became an everyday phenomenon. The country has never been overwhelmed and divided by large-scale conflicts between the government and the people, as well as people with other people of different ethnicities. Now, everyone agrees evidently that Abiy Ahmed is behind most, if not all, of these mass killings, displacements, abductions, seized hunger, and other attacks. He intentionally says and does things that make him look like an advocate and savior of one ethnic group to hatefully divide the country. He wants to be portrayed as a hero for one ethnic group and a rival for the other. While doing that, he secretly organized an army separate from any legal armed forces that is given a mission of terrorizing, killing, looting, and displacing folks from other ethnic groups. While these crises have happened almost daily for the last 5 years, Abiy never even bothered to be concerned by any one of them. In a country where tens of millions of people are on the brink of hunger, with the cost of living reached to a point that even people in cities can't afford to buy food and hence go hungry, during his 5 years in office, Abiy built several huge recreation centers, and now he's finalizing preparations to build his brand new palace. In general, Ethiopians witnessed firsthand that the Nobel Prize, when granted in light of limited information, can turn an evil personality into a complete monster. 3. Apology and revocation. It would be very kind of the Norwegian Nobel Committee to apologize to Ethiopians as well as to the world and consider revising its policy to revoke the prize to teach the world that the Nobel Prize can also be taken away if it resulted in unintended behavior. Otherwise, pretending that the Norwegian Nobel Committee did nothing wrong only signifies the superficiality of the whole foundation, although we believe that the foundation is a lot more than that. Let's now move to see some references and evidence depicting promotion of hate and racist speech as well as violence by Abiy Ahmed and his associates. The first is a video showing how hate speech perpetrated by Abiy Ahmed fueled the war in Tigray, as reported by Al Jazeera.
A complex story of conflict in Ethiopia. Atrocities committed by all sides, including a sustained assault on truth. In a country of 115 million people, more than 90 ethnic groups and 80 languages, where multiple news outlets and platforms cannot even agree on what to call the story they are covering. Is it communal fighting or ethnic cleansing? Are these civilian casualties or victims of war crimes? A story fueled by hate speech and misinformation that threatens to tear the country apart.
The information war is everything to this conflict, because ethnic cleansing is an information war. Because you have to convince people that the existence of this other ethnic grouping somehow is an existential issue for them. So anytime that we've seen ethnic cleansing or we have seen conflicts that bear the hallmarks of genocide, you are talking about competing narratives. And what we're seeing then is the modern day tools, Facebook and Twitter, being used to perpetuate those competing narratives.
The information conflict and the physical conflict are feeding into each other. But sometimes hate speech and disinformation are kind of reflecting the conflict on the ground, and sometimes they're fueling them. And it can be hard to know which is which.
In Dispute, a news narrative that dates back to this time last year and the height of the pandemic, when the government in Addis Ababa postponed national elections, an order that the local government in Tigray ignored. Federal forces in Tigray were attacked by the TPLF, the Tigray People's Liberation Front, which called it a preemptive strike. The government in Addis called it causal. Some of the rhetoric has been scary, including from Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed. When Abiy used similar language on Facebook, urging Ethiopians to bury the TPLF, Facebook deleted that post for inciting violence.
Heading to the next video, evidencing that Abiy Ahmed proudly addressing a gathering that after he and his Eritrean counterpart destroyed Mekelle, a Tigrayan city and one of the biggest cities of the country, is now reduced to ashes, equivalent to Beshesha, one of the least urban places of the country, as reported by Reuters.
Ethiopia's army has pulled out of Tigray's capital Mekelle because the place is no longer the center of gravity, Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed has said, contradicting statements from Tigrayan forces that Ethiopian troops are on the run.
It was a center of a government, a center for known and unknown resources, but by the time we exit, there's nothing special about it except that there's some 80,000 people, and those people who loot. Otherwise, there's nothing that makes it different from Abiy Adi or Shiraro or Beshasha. It's lost its center of gravity in the current context.
Abiy Ahmed and his official aides have been sending extreme toxic and hateful messages provoking ethnic tensions in Ethiopia. For example, Daniel Kibret, one of the advisors of the Prime Minister, often makes extremist and racist messages. One of his messages included the following, quote, "Satan was the last of its kind, and they must also be the last of their kind." End of quote. The pronoun they in the last quote is meant to indicate people from the Tigray ethnic group. These and other toxic speech misled a lot of Ethiopians, directing them to commit countless atrocities and hate crimes against one ethnic group, the Tigray. Next is a video showing one of Abiy's speech in Oromo language to an Oromo gathering. This video shows one of several evidences where Abiy promoted hate among ethnic groups and identified himself as a Oromo leader and agent, even after taking the highest office in the country. By the way, keep in mind that this speech was made less than 2 months after he was awarded a Nobel Peace Prize. This speech includes the following message, quote, "Once we wake up and rise, a deer, which is a symbol of weakness, will never be able to eat us. We are elephant, which is a symbol of strength. We crush, eat, and govern. We have ideas, organizations, and connection with the world. People who once blocked our way can never go in and out without our permission. End of quote. The pronoun we in the last quote was referring to the Oromo ethnic group, and the word people in the quote was referring to the people of other ethnicities of the country. The last evidential video shows one of hundreds of instances where some ethnic Oromo youth and armed people, inspired by Abiy Ahmed, burned towns, killed and displaced residents of ethnic Amharas. Watch. That was the end of the letter, folks. Thank you for tuning in. Please encourage us by subscribing, liking, and sharing with your friends. Our goal is to expose tyrannies and their brutalities. Dictators are always products of inadequate skills and lack of wisdom, accompanied with extremely overrated personalities. With respect to the letter I just read, for example, Abiy Ahmed managed to garner a handful of fake credentials to help him deceive a lot of folks, including his colleagues. So again, help us reach more and more viewers by sharing, liking, and subscribing. With that, and until next time, I wish you all the best and be safe, and bye.